Radio Extreme Outdoors Coaches Show. Well, he's going to give it to Page straight up the middle, and Page is going to be hit initially, and now he's off to the races. There goes Page, 50, 45, 40. Page steps into another gear, and he's down the sidelines.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome to a Monday night edition of the Wildcat Radio Coaches Show. Coming to you live from Glen Baptist Church in Glen St. Mary, Florida. I'm Mike Cruz, joined as always by my co-host Jackie Baker and the head coach of the Baker County Wildcats, talking Baker County Wildcat football here. 2020 edition, Kevin Mays joins us. Coach Mays off to a 2-0 start this year as the Wildcats took care of Orange Park this past Friday night, 49-0 on the road. We'll talk more about that game. We'll get into it with some of the stats from the game and some of the big plays that happened in that ball game. There were a lot of them. And then look ahead to this week. The Wildcats another home game this week against Ed White here at Memorial Stadium this Friday night. We'll talk about that game. And then we've got a couple of maybe one or two Wildcat players that we'll talk to here tonight as well. So sit back for the next hour. Join us right here on 97.5 FM and listen and discuss some Wildcat football. We might even open up the text lines tonight. We might be a little brave tonight, open up the text lines and let you ask some questions to the coach here as we unwind the season. 2 weeks in now, the Wildcats 2-0. Want to thank Oscar Gray and the folks down at Dependable Heating and Air Conditioning, because without Oscar Gray and all of our sponsors, we wouldn't have this coaches show on Monday night for us to just sit here and chew the fat about football and other things that we'll probably get into tonight. But I do want to give a special shout out to Oscar. You know, Dependable Heating and Air Conditioning, family-owned business now, been in the Baker County, McClenny area for over 60 years. And if you ever need anything, heating, air conditioning, give them a call, please. Oscar Gray, they do great work. I can give you a testimonial myself. Earlier this summer, I called Oscar on a Sunday afternoon. I walked into my house and it was not cool like it was supposed to be, and I was like, uh-oh, something's wrong. And every homeowner, I can promise you this, if you ever walk into your home and something's off with the air conditioner or the heater, you know, immediately you panic and you think the worst, right? You think, oh, this is going to be a big deal. So you want to call somebody you trust that's not going to give you the runaround. So I called Oscar on a Sunday afternoon. Well, Monday morning, they were in the driveway, and within an hour, it was fortunately for me, this turned out to be a real small problem. So within an hour, I was back up and running. The house was cool. So I can promise you, Oscar's guys know how to take care of it, and appreciate them helping us along with this coach's show and making it possible here. So once again, we'll talk Wildcat football for the next hour. Head coach Kevin Mays is here. Got a big win on the road Friday night, Coach, 49-0. I tell you what, wasn't sure if we were going to get that one in. We got over there Friday afternoon. I was over, took advantage of the opportunity of being in the area and went over to Academy Sports between 4 and 5 o'clock over there. And while I was in Academy Sports, you know, they've got that tin roof, and you could just hear the rain. And then later on, the lightning came, and as we got closer to the game, we had one of those delays, and you could see lightning popping all in the area. But we waited it out, got the game in, Coach, and you're 2-0 to start the year.
Yep, it feels good to be 2-0. Obviously, I think that's where, you know, that's the goal of everyone. I was kind of glad we took the break before we started. I'd have hated to get out there and start for a minute or two and then have to go back in. So it kind of worked out in our favor, and you know, obviously the game itself, you know, spoke for itself.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Wildcats got off to a good start. Both opening drives of the season so far, the Wildcats have been able to go down and score, which is good. A little different scenario this past Friday, as against Bradford County. It took us until the third quarter to score again, but the Wildcats able to get 35 on the board in the first half. A lot of good highlights from that game, Coach, and I tell you, the three-headed monster at running back seems to be possibly going to open up some big-time opportunity for you in that offense.
Yeah, it's definitely a good problem to have, you know, with a
four-headed monster, really, if you add the quarterback.
You got, you know, Scooby Graham and Jamarian Baker, Cam Smith, and then Carson Crawford at quarterback. You know, but of course they don't get all the credit either. I think the O-line again played a really good game. They opened up a lot of holes for those guys, and you know, defensively it's going to be hard to key off one person because all four of those guys have shown that they can run the ball.
I was very, very impressed again with the offensive line performance. I'm telling you, I almost made those guys a wager that I'd feed them every good game they had. I was going to let y'all grade them. I'm glad I didn't do that because that'd be costing me hundreds of dollars a week, I'm sure. But those guys, another phenomenal job in the trenches to open that running game up. And, man, can you just do me a favor? Could you make those games a little more exciting, Coach? I mean, goodness great. A 49-0 victory. I love them, but, man, that leaves a lot to be desired to talk in the booth about.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
Me neither at the end of the day.
Yeah, it was a good game. It's nice to be able to get there and then get into the game where you can get some other guys in the game and let them get some experience because at some point, we're going to need them down the road.
Yeah, and we talked about that. I love those opportunities. I mean, those guys that get in the third and fourth quarter of games like that, they work their butts off too. Every day out at practice, and it's hot, and getting these what you would call your starters ready for the week, and you put them out there really to almost get demolished, so you can get looks, at what the opponent's going to do that week. And so for them to get a chance to get in there and did well. I mean, those guys, they went out there and they fought hard. But, man, we just out of the gate, I tell you, we talk about play fast. I would say our version of play fast is a little bit better than Orange Park's. 3 and out to start the game with, I think they ran 40 seconds off the clock. Yeah. That's not what you want to do in play fast, is it, Coach?
No, it's, you don't want to be, obviously you don't want to be somebody that plays fast. And like you said, put defense on the field in 30 seconds. So you got to be able to move the ball some, and it's tough to throw the ball around and incomplete because that stops the clock. There's a bunch to it, and there's a big advantage to it if you're good at it. But I thought we were a little better at it the other night.
Well, we talk about stats, and we get into that just a little bit. And the four-headed monster we talked about, a little over 200 yards for the Cats rushing the ball the other night. So you had between the four guys who really had the bulk of the carries, Scooby had 9 attempts, 64 yards. He averaged about 7 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns on the night for Scooby. Cam Smith had 5 carries, 53 yards, and a touchdown. And then Baker, another 6 carries, 46 yards. So you're in between 5 and 10 carries for each guy, and everybody's got somewhere around 50 yards rushing. And then you add the quarterback. Crawford carried the ball 9 times, 27 yards, and then later in the game, of course, Walker Avera came in and got 6 carries himself, and he had 20 yards. So a lot of balance there, when you talk about that. Now, most people think about balance. They talk about, well, how many times are you throwing versus running? But in this case, balance because you've got so many guys, and they're such different running styles, Jamarian Baker's got that kind of straight up and down running style, and he hits the hole fast. Scooby's a bruising back, and then Cam Smith, I watched him, and he can just make some guys miss with some of the cuts that he can make. So some different running styles, and then Crawford obviously has got a different running style too. It helps when nobody knows if you handed the ball off or not, and you get a two-yard head start on somebody, right?
Yeah, no, it's been, like I said, we kind of went into the year wondering where we were going to be at running back. Obviously, with Scooby there, where were we going to be behind him? And, it's turned into a good problem to have.
Good problem to have.
Yeah.
We talked about that on the broadcast the other night, Scooby Graham, the amount of carries and the work that he did last year, one of those cases where you're like, man, I hope nothing happens to Scooby. Mm-hmm. And now you're like, hey, obviously you don't want anything to happen to any of the guys, but if something did happen where somebody had to be out for a quarter or maybe a half of a game, you got other guys that can spell that. So,
well, that's just Baker came in and did it last year for us
that's
for a
right.
little bit, and he had a few good games where he had to carry the load, and at this point after 2 games, I'm comfortable putting any of them back there and letting them carry the load if need be.
Wildcats scored 14 in the first quarter, 21 in the second quarter, made it a 35-0 score at halftime. Really, no doubt about it. I noticed that Orange Park was really gassed on maybe the second series. That defense was gassed. That up-tempo offense is something that, when it's clicking, Coach, is one of those things. I know there's going to be that game when you're in a dogfight with somebody and everything's not working exactly right. But when things are working right, everything's clicking. That defense gets tired in a hurry, and you can kind of do what you want to then. You can just open up your playbook and do different things maybe than you haven't done.
Well, and that's, we got big dudes up front just keep laying on you. And, they weren't they weren't real big. They were fast up front, but they weren't real big. But you get those big guys laying on you play after play after play, it wears on you. And that's part of it, wear those guys down. So if it is close come third, fourth quarter, similar to like Bradford, you got the opportunity to, take advantage of that.
Have you ever coached a game when you had a kickoff return for a touchdown and a punt?
I don't know. I'll tell you what, though, kickoff
You have
return,
now.
J-Mod looked fast.
Have you ever had a game where you had 0 offensive yards in the third quarter and scored 2 touchdowns?
And really good stat that Jackie just brought up. At the end of the third quarter Friday night, we had 0 yards of offense in the third quarter, and Orange Park had -4. So for both teams,
we had 14 points.
And we had 14 points. Yeah, we returned the kickoff with J Mod, and then later on, Carlos Jefferson picks up the punt that nobody's paying attention to, and
that's what we were standing on the sideline. It was just sitting there, and we were like, "Carlos, pick that up, go!"
And he did.
Yep.
So you get 2 touchdowns in the third quarter. Then the fourth quarter is one of those deals where the clock's running, and you did have a great opportunity to get some young guys in there. I saw Walker Avera, younger brother of Weston, getting in there and getting some carries. And somebody said he got some good carries, I think, in the JV game as well. So they got that new rule now where you can play 6 quarters. So a guy like that gets some benefit from that, getting to play in the varsity game as well.
Yep. We've got a few guys that played 2 quarters in the JV game, and then we made them take their stuff off, and then they get in the varsity game, and it was a game like that. They got to play, a quarter and a half on the backside of it. So that gives you a chance to have some depth on special teams or something like that if need be. But
so is that the rule? If they're going to dress for the varsity game, they can only play 2 in the JV?
No, it's 6 quarters. 3-3, 4-2, 2-4.
You can do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As long as you don't exceed 6 quarters.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who's monitoring that?
Hands on your word.
It's on a word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, not that anybody would do anything deceitful out there. I'm sure there's not any coaches that would use a guy more than they're supposed to, but I'm just wondering if anybody's monitoring that, Coach. That's all.
I tell you, I mean, we can sit here, and I know you're an offensive guy, Coach, and 49-0, that's a great victory and a lot of yards and everything seemed to be clicking on offense. But I tell you what, 6 points allowed in 2 games on defense, that's a pretty big feat there. And I'd like to give Coach Kennedy a little shout out there. That defense, they were flying to the football, and a couple miscues on Orange Park, but still that defense, they did a great job. I felt like Orange Park threatened, I think, on their second series. They got a little something going, and then we kind of finally settled in, and there was no more.
Nope, those guys have done a good job. I mean, at all 3 levels, we've got some pretty good players over there, and it's Coach Kennedy's done a good job of, put them in the right spot and just kind of cut them loose and let them play. And we've been, like I said, only giving up 6 points in 2 games makes it easier on us on the offensive side.
Yeah, one of the spots I always kind of point out every year, it seems like if we do struggle, it's in the secondary. But you go against the Orange Park team, Coach Tom McPherson, he likes to air it out a little bit in his play fast. And those guys in coverage, man, cornerbacks and safeties, they're finding the ball. And it's not just being in good coverage. They're getting their heads around. They're finding the football, and they're making plays on the football, and I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, they have. I mean, you got Jamil Jones and Ronnie and Carlos and DeHaven's kind of a strong safety type guy. They all have. We've spent a lot of time on just breaking on the ball type stuff and just getting used to playing more of a zone than just strictly just man coverage stuff and following routes and stuff. So they're getting back there and they're getting comfortable with what they're doing, and they're just going to get better from here.
Yeah, one of the things I was going to actually do in the next segment, and Jackie, good segue into it, was kind of notate some of the guys that had some big games the other night. And defensively, early on, we called Garrett Kane's name probably on the first 2 series at least 5, maybe 6 times. He had a special teams tackle, and he was definitely in there getting some work in. I believe Garrett's a senior this year. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
So in that linebacking core, you run across the middle there. You got Camilo, and then Toby Kinghorn's on the far side, and you got Garrett playing over here. Camilo and Toby both coming back next year, so some youth there as well. But those 3 guys, Garrett had a couple of good first series, and I wasn't watching him anymore. I'm sure he had a great rest of the game, but Garrett had a great game. Camilo obviously was everywhere the ball was. He's head hunting on just about every play, and then Toby came in and got some big hits. So I thought the linebackers I mean, somebody that's more technical watching the film, you go back, you might find some things they did wrong. But I thought the linebackers played really well. And then up front, I know Zane Mobley had a couple of big plays, and then Cade Richardson just laid the boom on the quarterback one time as he released the football. And then maybe the biggest hit of the night was over in front of your sideline when the quarterback went around the corner and DeHaven Clark came out of nowhere and just popped him. Some big hits from the defense the other night as well.
Yeah, Camilo had one that we saw. You know, Camilo had a big one on the screenplay that they tried to run.
He did.
But, you know,
I think he lost his helmet on that one, too.
we talked to him. A haircut would help him.
It might.
You know, we went into the season thinking defensively that the D-line would be our strength. I mean, like you said, you got Zane and Cade, Deshaun Larry,
Weston. Yep.
Wesley Staggs comes in there and plays some. We got the young guy, Yamon Gibson. They call him 9. He's made some good plays. So that group right there is the base. And then, like you said, to follow that up with the next 2 levels behind them, both having guys that can play and that are stepping up, it's it's exciting. And, you know, a bunch of those guys still are young guys too. I mean, there's more than half of them are still only juniors this year.
Yeah, we talked about it the last 2 weeks. That defense was riddled with sophomores last year, and so to come back and now a lot of those guys only juniors, I mean, my goodness, you got to be kind of salivating a little bit, knowing not that you want to look past anything this year, but knowing that you got all these guys out there and that contribute a lot of depth, it seems like, on the Baker County sideline.
Yeah, and it's, we sit here and talk about it. Our JV team played Orange Park on Thursday, and those guys, they had a really, really big game, and you saw some youth down there, even with some of the 9th graders. We had a really good week against Orange Park.
I think that game was 35-0, wasn't it?
It was maybe 36-14 or something.
Oh, okay.
They scored a couple late.
Maybe it was 35. Yeah, maybe it was 36-0 at halftime or something. I saw.
So are you saying that Coach McPherson and those guys are glad to be done with us now?
Yeah.
He's not going to say it, but if I was Coach McPherson, I'm glad I'm done with Baker County this week.
Yeah, so some really good performances. We just talked about that. I'm glad you mentioned Weston Avra, too, and Deshaun Larry up front. I tell you, when you're in the middle, sometimes people forget you. But I know early on in that game, Orange Park tried to establish a few running plays against the middle, and Weston Avra crashed down and made some big hits inside. And we called his name early on.
He doesn't get moved either. He's just a movable object in there. He's playing really well.
Yep, and we called Zane's name. Zane had a couple of big plays, and then I mentioned Cade Richardson, and I can't remember who's that. Wesley Staggs comes in and spells when Cade Richardson goes out some, and Wesley. The defenses play well. Jackie, I'm glad you brought that up. They'll have some real good opportunity to continue that good play as we get more into the meat of our schedule. What surprised you so far, Coach? I mean, as I'm leaving the game the other night, I see scores like Bowles taking care of Trinity. Have you had a chance to look around and see which teams in the area are kind of surprising folks, or maybe even the teams on our schedule?
I mean, we talked about it on the way over. I would have picked Bowles to beat Trinity.
Okay.
They always seem to bring great athletes in, but they don't gel as good, and the Bowles kids have been together a little bit. I was proud of Sean McIntyre at Creekside. I mean, he had a good chance to beat Bartram Trail. Me and him coached together.
Okay.
I was kind of, to be honest, I was surprised to see Westside and Terry Parker lose. They lost to, I think Terry Parker lost to Fletcher, and Westside lost to Baldwin. So,
real surprising.
Yeah, I mean, you watch some of those things, and you kind of just pay attention to who's on our schedule, or people So that would be where I'm at right now.
Bishop Kenny was down big in their game to Episcopal, came all the way back, took the lead late, and then Episcopal scored late to win that ball game. We were paying attention to that because we got some folks in the county that have relatives on that team, and they're on our schedule later this year too. So Bishop Kenny, a tough loss for them. Bowles, though, a big win. So that'll be exciting. I know we don't want to look ahead of Ed White. We're going to talk about Ed White in a few minutes, but that'll be exciting later this year when we have Bowles coming to town. If we, the way our team's playing, and Bowles obviously a very good program, we'd love nothing more than to knock them off right here in our hometown. But we'll talk about that game much later. But yeah, what about the rest, Coach? Have you had a chance? I mean, everything's so disjointed this year. You know, you've got some college teams that have started. You've got some that haven't. You've got some that are still making decisions if they're going to play or not. NFL does get started in earnest week 1, but some of the stadiums are allowing people in, some are not, and most are not. Some are. Just weird watching football without that extra element of the fans. I watched C.J. Henderson yesterday. He intercepts the pass from Phillip Rivers, and he goes to celebrate, and he's looking to the fans to celebrate. Well, at the corner that he ran to the end zone, there's nobody there to celebrate with. It's just odd to me that the adrenaline factor and the thing that, you know, listen.
The players still doing what they're used to.
Yeah, still doing what they're used to. But how much of that affects the play? You know, I mean, there's a fine line between being amped up to play a football game and then being super amped up to play a game. You know, you have those games when that adrenaline kicks in. You know, I'll just use the Florida-Auburn game last year as an example because it got so loud in there that Auburn accused Florida of piping in sound because it was so loud in there last year, and that had an impact on the game, obviously. So without that extra element, you know, a lot of players, man, I've been there myself as a player. You feed off adrenaline, you feed off excitement, and you can actually get to another level when you've got that type of adrenaline in a game. Do you see that as it's going to affect games this year, or do you think that these guys are pros, they go out there and they do their thing?
No, I think everybody enjoys playing that. I mean, you go back and ask our team now, they all want to play for someone and play in front of 80,000 people and, you know, get that. And it's, you know, it's more fun to play in front of, you know, our crowd that, you know, there's there instead of going someplace else that doesn't fill up as much. And that's not even, you know, talking this year, just in the past. It's a you can obviously any athlete can feed off the crowd. I mean, even golf. I mean, look at Tiger Woods. Or something.
Oh yeah,
he
absolutely.
He feeds off that stuff. So the crowd will help. I do think it was kind of humorous yesterday to watch these guys walk up to the no crowd and still do their crowd celebrations.
You're still celebrating.
Yeah. But it was weird. I mean, like, I watched some of the Tampa Saints game yesterday. And then nobody in the Superdome. I mean, nobody there. But if you weren't paying attention, it sounded like people were there. They
piped in so much noise. Yeah. I had it on. When I got home yesterday, I turned that one on. I wanted to see, you know, how's Brady going to look, and you know, they've got some gelling to do. They've got some teamwork to get together down there, obviously. But you know, that Superdome was loud because they're piping in all this noise, but it's artificial. It's not the same. It's not the same. I hope that after all this. Well, I should preface that by saying hopefully once we get past this pandemic and there's some normalcy back to life, I hope we get back to the place where stadiums can fill up again and you can do things like we always have, just because, my goodness, it makes such a difference. You know.
I was curious yesterday. Y'all must pay for the Red Zone package or something, because I couldn't even watch the Tampa Bay New Orleans game on my dish. So
we pay our bill.
Dish got rid of Fox, man. They can't sign the contract with Fox. Yeah.
Well, you could have come over to my house. Man. I'll let you look at my TV.
But I was curious to see. They got Tampa Bay. You get Tom Brady, Leonard Fournette. You get all these guys that they signed in the offseason, you know, and how they would gel together. You talk about gelling as a team. You get all these superstar athletes in there, and then you take the poor little old Jaguars who cut what we would call all-stars in the league, you know, and really what kind of distraction those guys make in a locker room, you know, because Jaguars go out and everybody in the nation, I think, says pulled an upset, including myself. So
Sure.
Interesting to look at.
Jaguars playing with a handful of rookies on the field yesterday and beat a team that, I mean, the Colts have their problems. But, hey, Phillip Rivers is a seasoned guy. This is a guy that knows how to beat teams. But, you know, weird stat. You know, the Jaguars have beaten them like 6 times in a row at home or something, you know, even with some of the – it's a weird game. We'll see. I'll say this. The jury, to me, is out on the Jaguars.
No doubt.
But for those guys to come together, like you said, I think that locker room distraction has been something that's bothering that team, and I think that you saw yesterday that they've got a group of guys that can play together. You know, I don't know how successful they'll be overall, but they do have some guys that can play football.
Who needs guys, man, when you got the stash out there?
The stash.
Just need a guy.
Well, Coach, we're going to come back and talk about Ed White in a few minutes, and I want to ask your opinion on some other teams that we've got on the schedule down the road. We're going to get to that. We'll talk a little bit more about preparedness for this Friday night, you know, as the Wildcats host another home game. We'll talk about anything the fans need to know, and we'll open up the text line to get you some questions here before we get down to the end of the show. But I want to pause for a minute and bring in our quarterback, and let's get a chance to talk to him because this guy's been waiting in the wings for a little while, and he's a good friend of our program. He's been on the air here with us on Wildcat Radio Coaches Show before, and Jackie, he wears number 17 on the football field, but he's number 1 in the hearts of the Wildcat Radio Coaches Show. Carson Crawford, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Just,
pull that mic up there tight.
Yes, sir. Pretty good.
How was practice today? We didn't even ask Coach how the practice was yet.
It was good. I just try to influence the guys not to get the big head after 2 really good wins, and I tried to tell them to keep their heads straight and let's get zoned in for Ed White coming to town, because I've seen the film and they look like a pretty good team. So I think we'll have a pretty good game this week again if we can just keep our heads straight and get our job done how we're supposed to.
Well, I know you've been looking at that film. What do they like to do when they've got the football?
They like to give it their back. He's a pretty big dude, but I think our defense, if they played how they did this week, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, you can't get the big head. And Mike and I actually talked about that Friday. You know, you come out the first game of the season and you beat your big-time rival in Bradford County, and then you go over there and absolutely put a whooping on Orange Park again with a bunch of young guys. Now, you're a senior this year. You know, you're the starting quarterback. How can you corral those young guys? And does it help that they've been playing? Y'all have all been playing, you know, so can you see the maturity in the locker room and on the field with those guys?
Yes, sir. I told them before the Bradford game, I said, we've been playing all our lives together, really, Little League football and everything like that. And this is our dream to be a Wildcat. So I said we just got to go out this season and lay it all on the line this season. We know what each other can do, and, you know, I think we're seeing that now.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, you've been playing really well, making great decisions out there when you decide to pull that ball. It seems like it's always the right decision. Throwing the ball really well this season. I got to ask you, you and your brother, you know, he had one drop the other night. What do you guys say to each other after the game when something like that happens?
I didn't really give him any crap about it. I could hear my dad up there, but I just threw my hands up a little bit in the game. But I was like, I remember what Coach Mays told us at practice one day not to get into it, so I kept calm.
You guys are both competitors, so I know he's one of those guys you don't have to say anything to him. I know he's as hard on himself. I know your daddy, and he's hard on y'all and wants you to be successful, and it's all worked out because both of you do a great job out there on Fridays.
Yeah, and he's playing a lot on the defensive side of the ball too, so he's getting in the ball game both ways. And I'm sure that as the season progresses, you got a few guys to throw the football to down there as well. But hey, when you're I look back at the sheet, you know, and Coach Mays is not really a big guy on number of plays in the game. It doesn't really matter how many plays we run as much as it does what the scoreboard looks like and everything else. And I get that. Some coaches are more intent on, hey, I want to get 60-something plays, and if I get these 60-something plays, this is how many passes I'm going to do. Coach Mays is not like that, and that's okay. But for you as a quarterback, how many times would you like to throw the football a game?
It depends. It really does depend. If they're
just act like Coach isn't sitting there.
If they're dropping, it depends on what the defense is doing.
Yeah.
A little bit this week we saw Orange Park kind of like try to stack the box and move around a lot on us. But our running game was still hitting pretty good and everything. So, as long as we're winning football games, doing what we can do, I'm good with not passing the ball at all, really. But we tried to open that up a little bit at Orange Park, and J. Maude had a really good play, and Cameron had a good catch, and then he had a good drop too. But I ain't gonna bring that up. But
Cameron did have a good catch, yes.
But I'm fine with whatever works out and whatever wins us ball games, really.
35-yard pass to J-Mod, what you called a minute ago. He did. He made a beautiful catch, and that was a beautiful throw. There was only one guy that could make that play. He was the only guy that could get it. So as a quarterback, you're thinking that way, right? I'm going to throw this out there. I'm hoping he's going to run this down, but he's the only one that's going to catch it. I'm not going to let the defender have any chance, right?
Yes, sir. He's a fast dude, as you've seen on that kickoff. I mean,
99 yards.
Yes, sir. He was flying. But I have to give my O-line, give them credit. I mean, these 2 games, man, they've been killing some dudes up front. I mean, especially against Bradford, you saw it, and Orange Park, man, them boys did not want to touch our O-line anymore after last night.
We've been giving them credit. You know that fans were mad at Jackie last year because we gave the offensive line, you know, a little bit of a fit on the radio, or somebody gave him a fit on the radio. And so Jackie's giving them a ton of credit, and they are, believe me. And there's some big guys up there. You know, we had Chase Cruz in here last week. He's big. I know Ross Crummy, he's down and out, but he'll be back. Big kid, too. I know Ross lost some weight, but he's still tall, and he's a big guy. And I'm missing some of the other guys right now, but Trip Carrington's out there, and, you know, Trip's a guy that's just grown and grown and grown. He's a twin too, you know. You're a twin. He's a twin.
Yes, sir.
Who's the other offensive lineman I'm missing?
DeMonte Gibson.
DeMonte. Yep, DeMonte. So hey, those guys have been doing great, and you know, we continue to open those running lanes. We've got some weapons back there, you know, between Jamarian and Scooby and Cam. The amount of people that you've got that can distribute the ball. I mean, it's set up well. I did notice though, you know, Ed White put up 38 points against Menendez. Now, Menendez, I haven't seen them on film in the last few years. They've been up and down. It depends on the year. There was one season that they gave us everything that we wanted, but so I don't know how good they are. But you know, it'll be interesting to see what Ed White's got. Sounds like offensively at least they may have some guys, and they typically have a few athletes that can really get after it running back position wise. But I'll expect they'll probably come in, run the football, and we'll see what we can do to get after them. Defense will have the test, right?
Yes, sir. I mean, I don't want to brag anything on offense or anything, but I trust my guys.
That's why we're here, man. You can brag on it.
Brag on them. I tell you, I like it. Get after each other a little bit. I mean, you put up 49, you know, and then you put up, what was
33,
it, 33 the other night. So you guys, man, y'all are rolling.
33 and 49, real quick, Jackie. What's that?
Good gracious.
82. There you go. 82-6 right now. We're outscoring an opponent. No, that's good stuff. So, you know, looking forward to it. Well, and before you hand the headset back to Coach Mays, I want to get into some other stuff here. So, we'll talk about your breakdown. I want to get your thoughts on things that you'd like to tell the team before you go and before we get there. But in between that, you as a student, you know, you're a senior this year. You've been waiting. You know, we talked about Alex Bowen. He's up at Georgia Southern now. Watched Chase Hancock a few plays the other night over at Georgia Southern. Alex Bowen's up there with him. You've been waiting. You've got a chance now to be the quarterback. But when you're not playing quarterback and when you're not on the field and doing what you do, what do you like to do?
I like to fish and hunt. Just be out on the lake, Kingsley Lake. That's probably my favorite place to be.
So what's more fun on Kingsley Lake? Would you rather be fishing or like hanging out on a boat and riding the tube or the hydro slide, or what do the kids do now? The wakeboard?
He'd rather be piled up with a bunch of girls than about what he'd rather be doing.
That's what I was getting at.
I mean, it depends. If the fish biting, then I'll go fish. But if there's some good-looking girls there, I might have to set down the rod for a few.
Oh, that's good stuff. All right. Well, what else? What else do you like to do when you're not when you're not playing football, when you're not fishing? And you know, you and I are going to get together and go fishing soon. My last trip to Kingsley, I lost a boat tire, so I had to put the spare on. So I got to get my spare fixed. And then I've got a problem with my trolling motor I got to work out. But we can still go. Believe me. I just need to get a tire on my spare because, you know, things happen, man. You pulling the boat back and forth, things happen. But you and I will go, and I've got a spot picked out for us now too. And then also in the kayak, I like to get out in the kayaks, and I've got an extra one. I think you'd be a good kayak fishing guy.
Yes, sir. I used to kayak fish a lot.
Okay. I've got a good river spot that I like to go to, and we won't tell everybody on the radio where it's at. you know how it is. You don't want people in your fishing spots. But I got a good river spot I want to take you to. There's good fishing.
Yes, sir.
So bass fishing primarily is what you like to do, right?
Yes, sir. I mean, I ain't really in. I mean, it's just like the adrenaline when that bass hits your bait, worm, whatever it is. It just gets your adrenaline pumping, really.
It does. It does, and it's one of those things that I'm kind of like I'm one. I was talking to Chase Cruz about this last week because Chase is a bass fisherman and his dad's a really good bass fisherman, and I'm there's a lot of guys that they've got these 12 and 14 pound bass on their wall. They've got the taxidermist that's done that. That's great. I like to catch big fish too. Big fish are fun to catch. But I like to go for just you get out on the kayak, you're out there in nature, and you have a chance to catch some fish. If I catch 4 or 5 fish on my trip, I don't care how big they are. I just had a good time because I was able to do it, and that's kind of the fisherman I am. But believe me, when the big one hits, your adrenaline does get to pumping.
Yes, sir.
So hunting wise though, you doing some hunting too? Georgia season opened this weekend.
I'm not hunting in Georgia. We actually bought some land out in Collar, so I killed some deer out there on that property last year and everything like that. I tried to let my brother actually shoot one last year, but I don't think he likes killing animals, especially deer. So my brother.
Your
yes,
brother?
Sir.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
He kind of has a heart for things like that, I guess.
Well, he's going to want to come in here next week and defend himself on the radio.
He better have a good game. He can't wait to get on the radio.
All right, well, you got Ed White coming to town this Friday night, and I'm glad you came tonight. The coach asked me who we wanted to come in. We haven't really picked the player of the game so far. There's so many guys, like we talked about earlier, there's so many guys that have just been playing well. We should call out that, the kickoff return that J-Mod Ruiz had was 99 yards, almost 100. We look back at the film, his foot's almost touching the goal line. I mean, that's got to be a school record to some degree, and I know it is. You can't go any further in high school. I think back in the day you could probably run the ball out of the end zone at some point, but ever since they made the touchback rule, as soon as that ball crosses the goal line, you can't run it any farther than 99 yards. So that's a school record. Good job for J-Mod. There's so many guys that we called out. When you call a player of the game, it kind of it makes it down to one guy who stood out above everybody else. And I kind of like the idea that when you have so many guys that coaching us, we'll just talk about it and say, send us down a couple of guys. We'll talk to them on the radio. But you've been playing really well, and I'm glad you had a chance to come down and talk to us tonight. And we'll be rooting you on for sure Friday night.
Sir, appreciate it.
You think your dad's listening tonight?
Actually, he's working on our septic tank at our new house. I just got done with him too, but he said he'll listen after. So
he's been working on that septic tank for about 3 weeks.
He has.
So when you get home from the games, does he want to break down film right away, or does he wait until the next day? Does he give you a day?
I know against Bradford, when I threw an interception, we were up to like 2 a.m. talking about it. So now Orange Park, he let me off a little bit. So I think, and the other day he was like, man, you just got to have fun with it, So he says, it's your senior year, you just got to have fun with it. So
does he have a film room set up in your house so y'all can?
I mean, he has a thing where we can plug our phone into the TV on the big TV and put it on that.
Yeah, well, listen, I know he's intense, and he was a good football player too. And I don't know if you've ever had a chance to go back and watch any of his footage, but he was tough.
Yes, sir.
No doubt about it.
Yes, sir. They were a different breed back then, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Some of them guys, some people today couldn't do what they did back then.
Oh, no doubt. Baker County football has always had a different breed of guy, for sure.
Yeah, no, I will tell you, those stories get embellished as the years go on. So, no, I'm kidding, man. Your dad, he was a tough guy. Your Uncle Simon, too. Both those guys.
No doubt about it. All right, well, listen, Carson, I'm rooting you on Friday night, and I want y'all to go beat Ed White, and we'll go find out. I'm going to go find out from the coach now just how many fans we're going to have at the stands this Friday.
Yes,
we'll
sir.
Talk about that. Maybe he's giving me a look. Maybe not.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all. Go Cats.
Yes, sir. Go Cats. Number 17 in the program. Number 1 in your hearts, Jackie. Carson Crawford. He's, like I said, he's been waiting. Alex was here the last couple of years running that quarterback spot, and Carson gets to take over. And it's good to see him back there. And Carson's got a unique ability. He's a left-hander, number one. So left-handed quarterbacks, to me, I like watching the left-handed quarterbacks sling the ball. They seem to have a more kind of a neater throwing motion. It's always that way with left-handers. You like to see the left-handed hitters always seem to have a little bit better swing than the right-handed hitters and left-handed throwers. And then he can, Carson does something well with that, zone read stuff when you're faking the handoff. Sometimes you don't know. I think the other night him and Jamarian actually were fighting over one, but most of the time you don't. Sometimes you have to think about it for a second. Who's got the ball?
Still picked up 6 yards running together.
Yeah, they did. They did, which was funny. All right, Coach, before we talk to you about the game this Friday night, we are going to open the text line because we've got some folks who want to weigh in on the text line tonight. 904-859-6383 if you got a question for the coach. 904-859-6383 if you're listening in and you've got a question for the coach, send it our way. Or you can send it to 904-307-2899. But anyway, I do have a couple. I got a couple of guys that have already chimed in, Coach. We've got Brian Schoen. He's out in Texas listening in. He says, shout out to Wildcat Nation, and great job, Coach. He says, congratulations, Wildcats. He's a 1984 Baker County High School graduate, so you got some folks there. Friday night, Jackie and I were going through the list of states that we had folks listening to us in. We had Texas covered, we had Tennessee covered, we had Georgia covered, and we had Montana covered, if you can believe that or not. One of the guys that we're good friends with lives up in Montana now. He was listening into the game. You may have some relatives other places too, Coach, but we know at least 4 or 5 states besides Florida we've got covered so far.
Coach Shaw wished me luck. He's in Alabama.
Alabama.
Okay.
I got family that lives in Kentucky, so they chime in, and like you said, we eventually we'll get it all covered.
Eventually we will. Well, we're worldwide, That www dot covers everything. Yeah. Got another text in here on the text line, Coach. It says, the question comes in, it says, the kicker broke the school record last year with 9 PATs, and last Friday night had 7 strong PATs, yet he seems to get chastised a lot on the sidelines. Can the head coach elaborate on that?
Well, he had a guy that coached him some last year, and he handled that better than what the head coach does.
Last year's special teams coach?
Yeah.
Who would that have been, Jackie?
We got a text at the Orange Park game that said that after the third quarter when we scored 2 special teams touchdowns, it said special teams gotten a lot better since that coordinator was no longer there. So.
Well, if I remember, he was the punt block specialist, right?
He was good at that. He was good at that.
He did a good job because he saw that obviously I was a little harder on Blake or Brian, and he stepped in and took over it and caught him 9-iron, just swing smooth through it, and Blake does a good job, and I forget sometimes that he's still just a 10th grader, and obviously it's easier to get on your own son a little better, but the only thing I had on the kickoffs were, I wish, like we talked about before we got on the radio, if he could, there was a huge hole there in the middle, just put the ball there, and he was trying to be a little cute with it, but he's done a good job, and I'll get in trouble again if I don't say Brian's done a good job snapping. He's got them back there, and I haven't had any issue with that.
You just talk about his snaps, but I told him Friday, and I actually told him today, he come over and helped us a little bit today. That was a great hustle play. He got down on that fumble on the punt and hustled down there. I mean, the long snapper gets down there and recovers the fumble, man. That's hustle.
I didn't even know it till Sunday.
Yeah, see, I knew it. I called it out on the radio.
Tell you?
On a hurt ankle, too.
Yeah, I didn't even, you see the ball, and you see the ref kind of point our ball, and you start getting into, all right, offense, let's go. Brian had to remind me. He got that. And Erica did want me to report this week. She gave me a thumbs up this week.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Look.
How about that?
Schmoozing over. You must have bought her something nice.
Must have been a good week. Now, Blake, I tell you, the confidence that I saw Blake with Friday night was a lot different than the first week. I mean, obviously that first week, you got a guy that's coming out there. You said he's a 10th grader. I mean, there's going to be some nerves. There's going to be some jitters. Well, Friday night he boomed every single extra point through there, and then on the 41-yard field goal, I don't remember, it was wide right, but those aren't gimmies, especially on a wet field. We had a wet field Friday night. There were some ball issues, and I don't know if they've got that laces out thing just right yet, on the long field goals. But
no, they didn't watch, what was the movie, Ace Ventura?
Ace Ventura.
They haven't watched that because the guys that hold the ball, every one of them don't spin it. They kick a lace every now and then.
Yeah. Jeez, that's the number one rule, man.
Lace it out.
I was impressed with where to get those moves at wide receiver, man.
That had to be me.
A little shifty out there.
He was always good at that. That's, the thing with Blake is I don't know how much he wants to be the kicker. He wants to be the skill guy and stuff out there, but I will say this, it's after Blake, kicking goes downhill real fast. Real fast.
He's got a highlight. Yeah. He's got a highlight other than kicking. I'll give him that. His huddle highlight that he sends all these coaches are going to be 78 field goals and making one man miss at wide receiver.
Well, things were so bad at the University of Florida a few years ago when McElwain was there. They just had an open tryout.
Yeah.
Open tryout. Come on out here and kick.
You'd be amazed how many linemen think they're kickers when you say, "Can anybody else kick?"
I can, coach. Yeah. Chase Cruz running over there to kick.
Absolutely, he's the first one.
All right, well, Coach, let's talk about the schedule this week. You mentioned JV with a big win over Orange Park last week, so JV's 1-0. What do they have on tap this week?
Well, I told the kids today to tell their parents not to buy any tickets yet. I got word from Middleburg that they think their field's going to be underwater, and we're working on trying to get that game moved with no answer as of right now.
Move it here, right?
Well, we're trying to, but with all the rain, if we go middle school JV, then our game, I don't know how good the field's going to be for our game. So we talked about another date, and I was going to go out tomorrow morning and look at the game field and see kind of how wet it is and get a feel for it. And I told him maybe if we could wait till after the middle school game, which would be late, which would be Wednesday morning, maybe to make a decision if that field got tore up from the middle school. If it was all right, maybe we could give it a shot and, try to get them to come here. And he said as long as we make that decision early Wednesday morning, we can make it happen. Now, there's a lot more to it on my end. I got to make sure a bunch of other stuff's done, but if we can make it happen, we'll make it happen.
Middle school is home tomorrow night then?
Yep, I think they play Green Cove.
Middle school home tomorrow against Green Cove. Probably a 6 o'clock kick, I'm thinking, most of the time.
Yeah, I think
it is, yeah.
And varsity 7 o'clock kick Friday versus Ed White. Any word on what we're doing stadium-wise? Do people need to get there early or just pay attention to? Yeah,
just pay attention. I mean, it's going to be the same as we did before. Everyone take precautions and wear a mask if you feel you need to. And, if you're not feeling well, stay home.
Stay home. That's the rule, right? If you don't feel well, stay home. As far as I know, based on everything I've seen, the cases in Baker County have been pretty reasonable, the same number or even a lesser number the past week or so. So hopefully, as we continue to move forward, this thing's going to continue to dissipate somewhat, and we'll be out of the woods. And it's one of those things. We've never had to deal with it before, so I think people are doing the best they can with what they know, right?
Then I do the AD side of things. Volleyball's playing tonight at Union. They play Bradford tomorrow at home. So if anybody wants to come out and help support them. Swimming goes to Columbia on Thursday, and then cross country goes to Interlochen tomorrow. So we got a bunch of sports.
Swimming at Columbia, volleyball home tomorrow night, you said?
Yep, they're at Bradford, and they're actually at Fernandina on Thursday.
You said there's a lot of sports we've got going on. I noticed in something I saw today from Duval Sports, they've got a girls bowling league. Some of the teams playing girls bowling. We got any thoughts on maybe, since you're the AD, having a bowling team?
We had bowling, and
when I was in school, we had bowling.
Did we really?
Yeah, and it just hasn't really caught this year.
They used to call me Kingpin.
Kingpin Baker. All right, going back to the text line, 904-859-6383. Got another question coming in here, Coach. Not sure who this is, but I've got a number. Coach, what are your thoughts on RPOs? Are they legal or illegal? RPO meaning run-pass options.
If he doesn't throw a flag, it's legal.
If he doesn't throw a flag, it's legal. I'm thinking there's more to this question, but
we have some in there. I'll be honest. I said it last week, and I was trying to talk it up more that we were going to do it more, just in case Coach McPherson was listening. But I would like to throw the ball more, and we have RPOs in, but it's hard to get away from. I mean, you go back and look. We almost have averaged 7-8 yards a play in 2 games, so it's
Cam
hard to
Smith's
get away.
averaging 11 yards a carry.
So here's where that comes from, and that may have not been him, but I'll tell you who is not a good big advocate of that is our defensive coordinator. He doesn't believe in the RPO. He thinks that because your linemen are downfield, that if you use the passing option, then it should be illegal man downfield every time.
I got you.
Only if they throw the flag.
Only if they throw the flag, Coach. So what? Yeah, well.
No, never mind.
Well, the second part of that question that comes in is, since we and I know that I don't think we've got any Ed White folks listening into the show. Hopefully none of our others are listening in. But since we do have 2 quarterbacks on the field at certain times, you got Noah Ray, you got Carson Crawford, sorry. Are we doing anything in terms of maybe some type of quarterback throwback pitch thing? That's what I got here in the text.
We've had double pass in. We've had
What do you call that? Double reverse or double?
We got a reverse pass, and we do have a double pass. And we got some other guys actually that you'd be surprised that can throw the ball. Ronnie Ellis can throw the ball a long way.
Okay.
I just got to talk him into coming over and playing offense. So.
What about Scooby? Can Scooby air it out?
Scooby can do everything if you ask him.
Ain't no doubt. I had to hear about it Saturday. How fast he was at 8 years old.
Yeah, what did he say? He scored 6 touchdowns every game.
Yeah,
That's what he told us.
averaged 6 touchdowns.
I believe it. Listen, hey, if Scooby says it, I believe it. Scooby's a horse. And he's got, according to the Twitter I saw the other night, the best football name in North Florida, Scooby Graham.
I did see that.
That's a good
I
one.
retweeted that, too.
Yeah, I think that might be where I saw it from. The other one I saw was Baylor, because Baylor Newsome he's got a good football name, too. And I've been trying to get him to come to Baker County instead of Bishop Kenny, but we'll see him later in the year. But either way, that's probably not going to happen.
Here's what I would text your anonymous texter about RPOs here.
Okay.
Is I would tell him, let's not worry so much about RPOs, and let's worry about the Ed White running back going for 284 Friday night.
Yeah.
He ran for, someone did send us all a picture of him, and it said I think he ran like 25 carries for 284 yards against Menendez. So we got our work cut out.
Well, listen, our linebackers pursue the ball, and our defensive front we talked about. I mean, I like our guys, and that week 1, we had a little bend but don't break. But I get a couple of games underneath, and they know what the offense is doing, especially if you got a team that's predominantly just going to try to pound the back. I like our chances of stopping that, don't you?
Heck yeah. If anybody runs for 284 against us, I may have to fire them. I don't know who we're going to fire. I don't know who we're going to fire. I'm not going to say any names, but somebody's getting fired if we get 284 put on us on the ground.
Yeah, I'd be upset about that.
Well, Jackie, you're anything coming in from your end on the tweet line tonight?
No, dead air.
I wanted to look at some of the college football matchups coming up this weekend.
What'd you think of that FSU game?
I tell you, I was in Blackshear, Georgia for a baseball tournament, and fortunately that FSU game got delayed. So basically, my ride home, I found it on the Sirius radio, and I was able to listen to the whole thing coming home. And Gene Deckerhoff does not disappoint, because Gene Deckerhoff, like the Seminoles or not, Gene Deckerhoff is fantastic to listen to. Okay, he's one of the best radio guys you've ever had. He always did Tampa Bay Buccaneers too until recently. I don't think he's doing Tampa Bay anymore. But Gene Deckerhoff is a pro. So I'm listening to the Seminoles the whole way home. And at halftime, Georgia Tech had outgained them by over 100 yards at the half, but they had no points. They had the blocked field goals and everything else. And I thought to myself, if they can get over 200 and something yards in one half on FSU, what is going on? So I was a little bit surprised, but at the same time, maybe not. I mean, James Blackman as a quarterback, he's one of those guys that looks like he should be one of the best quarterbacks in the country, but he just hasn't developed. He's been there now 3-4 years, and he just hasn't developed. Not sure that that's his fault, and I'm not sure that he's had the coaches there or the continuity with coaches to get him developed like he needs to be. But I'm not impressed. It's going to be a long year in Tallahassee.
No, but I thought Norville was a good hire coming in, and obviously it takes a little more time. Besides his picture where he had his hair in cornrows, he was pretty good. I thought he's pretty good hire for them, and it was local kid played good against them, the Jeff Sims kid.
That's what I was going to. That's a slap in the face to me. The fact that because FSU, he was committed to FSU, and then decided he wasn't going to fit in Norvell's system, and then he goes out and beats Norvell the opening day. I mean, that can't get any better script than that if you're Sims, for sure.
We'll find out this week if So Miami opened up the year last week on Thursday night. Well, they'll play Louisville this Saturday, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first top 25 matchup we've got. Miami comes in ranked number 17 this week, which is new. They haven't been ranked in a while. They'll be ranked 17. Louisville is ranked 18th, so we've got a top 25 there. And then BYU and Army was supposed to play this week, but I don't think they are.
Yeah, Army was ranked in the top 25, but someone said there was only 25 teams playing.
Well, I think that's kind of. I think that's kind of.
I was going to make that joke about FSU. I was going to say they're not ranked in the top 25 out of 27 teams in the country that are playing.
But now here's an interesting game for you. Now that Georgia Tech beat FSU this week. Now I don't know how good Georgia Tech really is, and I don't know how bad FSU really is. But UCF at 3:30 goes to Georgia Tech. That'll be an interesting game to watch. So
that will, and I actually am a UCF alum, and Trey Nixon, big receiver for them, played for me, and we'll be rooting for them.
There you go. So that'll be probably from a viewership, as I'm looking at the schedule here on my phone, from a viewership perspective, that's probably maybe one of the better games to watch this weekend. You've got Virginia Tech. That's kind of a rivalry type matchup, and then you've got UCF, Georgia Tech. South Florida plays Notre Dame. I talked to Greg Harrison for a while yesterday. Said Matthew McDuffie got in some snaps with South Florida this past week, and Cooper Hodges obviously played the entire game for Appalachian State up there in the rain, and then I know Chase Hancock was in some of the plays. He had his birthday this weekend. Tyler Burnson hadn't played yet because they were postponed, so I think he might get some action this week. Maybe I'll have to check that. Yeah, they play Middle Tennessee State this week on the road. So
I stood out in the rain with their parents watching.
Did you go
Jackie's
to Boone?
coaching debut?
Hey man, you weren't supposed to bring that up out here.
Oh, did you go over to the north side to watch the game Saturday?
I did.
Trying to get some up and coming Wildcat talent. Is that what the plan was?
I had to drive my. Brian and Blake helped coach the 10U team.
Yeah, they coached the 10U.
And
Brian's
that's a little too far drive for me to let them just take off in.
Oh, I got you. So you need.
So I went over there and
hurricane,
sun.
Brian's moved out. He's got a new job. He's now the 8U offensive line coach. And I thought that was going to be great until I looked over there today, and all of them are crying because they're doing up-downs for 10 minutes at a time.
I don't know where he got that from.
I said, okay, Coach Mays, get them right.
I'm hearing after the scores that I heard from Saturday that Jackie might need a defensive coordinator. Is that what?
No, those kids tried their best.
Yeah. We needed the true blue varsity Wildcats is what we needed, son.
They were the teams they were playing had some guys that could flat out fly.
That's what we expected.
And they drove to the 8U game.
Yeah.
So shout out, Jackie, to John Meadows here. I know that you noticed this with our equipment. John has installed some new capabilities. So just give yourself a push on that button there, and then talk.
Yeah.
No, you got to hold it down.
Oh, you got to
hold it down, then talk to me. See, that's a mute button now. So if I decide that I don't want you to talk during the broadcast, I just do this, and now Kevin and I can talk, and you're muted.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a button, I can. Can't hear me.
Jana may want me to take that home.
Good job. But anyway, I want to give a shout out to Glenn Baptist, Pastor Chaz Rowland, the guys over here. This radio station, and this will probably be the last week that we'll be in the studio. We're going to get out in the community and let folks come join us for the next few coaches shows. But John Baptist, I'm sorry, not John the Baptist.
John wow.
John Meadows over here at Glenn Baptist opening up the studio for us. It's nice in here, man, and we get to see the inside operation of this radio studio here. So if you haven't done it, lock your station to 97.5 FM in the area during the week. Listen to the station, support Glenn Baptist here, beacon for Baker County, and we appreciate everything that these folks do. And I think that's it, Coach. This Friday we should have, with Jeremy Height, we should have the streaming capability back up, so you should be able to watch the game on YouTube and follow along with the audio. We should be able to do that for every home game this year. So
Yep.
if you're wanting to
plan.
do that, if you're wanting to do that, that's an exciting way to keep track of things. And the folks that I've talked to said it worked out great. You know, I had a couple of folks that they love listening to it on the radio, but now that they knew they had that option on home games, they said it was awesome. So looking forward to that. But anything else you want to tell the guys before Friday night, Coach?
No, same thing. We've talked about. I'm fine with confidence. Let's just not be real cocky. And we've said that. Said it again today. Because I don't have any problems with them walking around feeling good about themselves.
That's right.
And they should. And then get everybody out that feels that they're up to it. Come out and root us on Friday night.
Confidence is fantastic. If you're going to be a successful athlete, you've got to be confident. You got that fine line between arrogance and confidence, and that's where guys get muddled up sometimes. That's where Jalen Ramsey sits, Jackie. He's in that fine line place between arrogant and confident. And the best players are going to be riding that line.
Last night?
Oh, I mean, listen.
He got burnt.
This is the way I look at it, Coach. You see that play in the second quarter with 10 minutes to go before halftime, nobody even thinks about throwing a flag.
Yeah.
At the end of the game like that, somebody's begging for it and everybody's eyes are on that play. I mean, no, I didn't think it was interference at all. And, I mean, if you looked at it, I thought Ramsey kind of had a little arm bar on him at one time. I mean, they're hand fighting, They're hand fighting. And I hate seeing the flag thrown in that situation. I hate seeing it. I don't hate it for Greg Harrison because, Greg Harrison's a big Cowboys fan. So he wanted the Cowboys to win, but I needed them to lose because I'm an Eagles fan, and of course we laid an egg.
Yeah.
We laid an egg yesterday. So anyway, 17-0 lead, and they blow it.
Yeah.
To the football team that doesn't even have a name.
Hey man, come to the Jags. We'll take you. We take an application for fans.
All right, well, folks, listen in. Friday night, 7 o'clock kickoff from Memorial Stadium. We'll go on the air about 6:45, right here on 97.5 FM WFBB. Coach, the Wildcats are rolling 2-0. Best of luck this Friday night. And again, you can get out in the area this week. The middle school plays tomorrow night at home. Check Facebook or some other medium to find out about the JV game later this week. And then, of course, varsity will be there Friday night. So best of luck, Coach. And thanks to Carson Crawford for coming in and joining the show tonight as well. And Wildcat fans, we'll talk to you Friday night. Good night, everybody.
Living life together. We're